April the 13th, 1991, Susan Boriello, wife of acting Gambino captain Bartholomew Bobby Boriello, is in her kitchen feeding her 2-year-old son, Bobby Jr. Her other son, Patrick, is allegedly at the movies. At around 7:30 p.m, she heard Bobby's Lincoln Town car pull up outside the house, followed by what appeared to be her husband yelling at someone. Bobby Boriello had just stepped from his vehicle when he was hit with a hail of bullets, 2 in the head and 5 in the torso. He stood no chance and died instantly. Sammy the Bull Gravano recently touched on Boriello's killings in one of his videos, but let's explore it in further detail. Welcome to OC Shorts, bringing you detailed historical snapshots of the American Mafia and other organised crime. Feel free to subscribe if you like that sort of thing. Today, we're going to take an in-depth look at the murder of the extremely popular and greatly feared acting Gambino captain Bobby Boriello. As many of you are probably aware, Bobby Boriello's criminal career went back to the days of the Gallo crew and their war against what would become known as the Colombo family. In 1974, the Commission stepped in to end the Gallo-Colombo conflict. The Gallo crew was broken up, with such notable names as Albert Kid Blast Gallo and Frank Punchiliano being included into the Genovese family, whereas Bobby Boriello and his brother Stevie came into the fold of the Gambinos. Bobby Boriello was very well liked, and he became close with the acting captain of the Carmine Fatico crew, John Gotti, who famously operated out of the Bergen Hunt and Fish Club in Ozone Park, Queens. Boriello was known to be a very capable hitman and was one of Gotti's favourite shooters. However, interestingly, he wasn't picked for the Paul Castellano hit, which famously propelled Gotti to the top of the Gambino crime family. Throughout the 1980s, Boriello served as the Dapper Don's chauffeur, bodyguard and close friend. And in 1988, Bartholomew Bobby Boriello was officially inducted into the Gambino crime family. Mob turncoat Mikey Scars DeLeonardo would later testify that on the 24th of December that year, he was led into a Mulberry Street apartment belonging to the mother of mobster Joseph Correo. And it was here that DeLeonardo, John A. Jr. Gotti, Dominic Pizzania, and Bobby Boriello became made into the Gambino family in a ceremony conducted by Sammy Gravano and Pasquale Conte. 2 years later, Junior Gotti was promoted to captain and Boriello was placed into his crew. In 1990, family boss John Gotti called on Boriello to whack Gambino captain Louis Di Bono. Allegedly, Boriello had tried several times to get to Di Bono before he had Charles Caniglia and Kevin McMahon follow him to the parking lot of the World Trade Center. According to McMahon, he had driven Charles Caniglia to the parking lot, and via a two-way radio, Boriello gave the go-ahead. Allegedly, Caniglia approached Di Bono's vehicle, wrestled with the captain briefly, and then shot him dead. McMahon would later say that after this hit, Boriello said to him, "Don't tell nobody, you will end up like Louis Di Bono." And so, a few months later, we arrive at April the 13th, 1991. According to Susan Boriello, her husband had been at Aqueduct Racecourse that day, and then some reports suggest that he had stopped off at the Bergen Hunt and Fish Club for the regular Saturday night dinner, consisting of pasta and sausages, and apparently an incredible sauce, with many gangsters leaving after the dinner with a jar of this legendary sauce. Boriello was no different and apparently left with his jar and headed home that fateful evening. As I mentioned earlier, it was around 7:30 p.m. when Bobby Boriello was gunned down outside his home. Some sources indicate that it was Boriello's nephew who came out of the house and found his uncle after he heard some commotion, the broken jar of sauce lying on the floor next to him. Susan Boriello then stepped from her house and saw the body of her husband, and she is quoted in saying that he was lying face down next to the car, all full of blood and holes. The imprisoned Gambino family boss John Gotti was both devastated and angry at the murder of his friend. He tasked his son, John Jr. Gotti, who was now acting boss of the family, to avenge Boriello's killing. According to Mikey Scars, Jr. Gotti was very upset over the death of his friend, who had taken over as acting captain of his crew. Initially, the main suspect for the murder was Preston Geritano, a mob associate who had previously been with the Gambinos but was now with the Genovese family. Geritano and Boriello had been feuding for years, and at one point Boriello pulled a gun and fired at Geritano whilst on a Brooklyn street, but he missed. Geritano vowed revenge, and Boriello was given the okay to kill him. Luckily for Preston Geritano, he had connections with the Genovese family, and they organised a sit-down to sort out the feud. Sammy the Bull Gravano then met with Venero Benny Eggs Mangano. Benny Eggs asked Sammy the Bull if Geritano's life could be spared as a favour to the Genovese, and that they would then put him on record as an associate with them. Geritano would be their responsibility, and they would ensure that Boriello had no more problems. However, Geritano went back to his usual tricks and started mouthing off again that he was going to kill Bobby Boriello. Gravano allegedly telling high-ranking Genovese captain Mikey Genovese that, "Get him in line or kill him." And so, with Boriello dead, fingers automatically pointed to Preston Geritano. A sit-down was then arranged between Junior Gotti and the then acting boss of the West Side, Liborio Barney Bellomo. These two mobsters had both similarities and differences. Both were the sons of made men, with Barney's father dying whilst he was growing up. And both mobsters were very young to be in the position of acting boss of a mafia family. But, unlike Junior Gotti, few people doubted Barney Bellomo's Cosa Nostra credentials. Barney was an American Mafia prodigy, reported to have been made at the age of just 20. It is alleged that he then became captain of the famous 116th Street Crew while still only 24 years of age, replacing Sammy Black Santora. And he was just in his early 30s when Gigante made him acting boss of the Genovese family. Mikey Scar's DeLeonardo drove John Gotti Jr. to the meeting with Barney, and he learnt what transpired. When asked at his testimony what Junior Gotti did at the meeting, he recalled, "He demanded that Geritano be killed." Apparently, Bellomo agreed to this, and whether Barney knew that Geritano wasn't actually responsible, or that they were protecting their own, or they just didn't take Junior Gotti seriously, there was no action taken against Geritano. This infuriated Gotti Sr., and it essentially delivered a metaphorical slap to Junior Gotti from the Genovese. John Gotti Jr. then approached Boriello's brother Stevie and authorised him to kill Geritano. However, Preston Geritano survived. Well, at least until 2004, when he was stabbed to death by his brother-in-law, Andrew Gargiulo. In an unrelated incident, the two in-laws had become involved in an argument, and Geritano had attacked Gargiulo with a stickball bat. The fight at the Amici restaurant that they co-owned spilled out onto the street, and Gargiulo stabbed Geritano 5 times with a steak knife, killing him. As it turns out, and is now well known, Preston Geritano wasn't actually responsible for Boriello's death. On the evening of the killing, Susan Boriello had reported seeing a big man jump into the passenger seat of a gold Lincoln Town car. The big man turned out to be vicious Lucchese captain Big Frank Lastarino. Big Frank had been ordered to whack Boriello by Anthony Gaspipe Casso. The killings being similar to those of Frank DeCicco and Eddie Lino, in that they were delivering a message to John Gotti regarding his unsanctioned murder of Paul Castellano. Despite the orders for these killings coming from Casso, ultimately it can be argued that the main puppet master behind the murders of DeCicco, Lino and Boriello was actually Genovese boss Chin Gigante. DeCicco and Lino had been part of the plot to kill Castellano, with DeCicco one of the planners and Lino one of the shooters. However, Bobby Boriello wasn't part of this plan at all. However, with Gotti Sr. locked up, it was decided to hurt him by killing someone he was close to, and the respected and popular Boriello fitted the bill. Interestingly, Boriello was killed 5 years to the day of the bombing of Frank DeCicco. In another twist, it was later revealed that Casso's mafia cops Epolitto and Caracappa were also involved in the Boriello killing. They had obtained his address and passed it on to Casso. In fact, years after the murder of her husband, Susan Boriello was watching TV when she saw a news piece on the corrupt detectives. She instantly recognised Epolitto as a policeman who had visited her house prior to the Boriello shooting. She then recalled, "He showed up alone, said he was a detective, showed a badge, pushed his jacket back to show a gun. Did not give a name, but asked, 'Does Bobby Boriello live here?' I told him my husband wasn't home, and he said he'd be back, but he never returned." Ultimately, as per the Geritano sit-down, there were no reprisals against Frank Lastarino, and in fact, he was actually promoted to consigliere by Anthony Casso. The lack of retribution from the Gambinos for the death of Gotti's good friend Boriello, as well as those of Frank DeCicco and Eddie Lino, is seen by some as a massive stain on the Gotti legacy. Let me know your thoughts on that. I hope you found some of that interesting. Thanks for watching.